And welcome back, footy fans, to another episode of Donnie's Disposals. I am your host, Coach Donnie Hess here, back with another AFL round review. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are in the bye period, but we still have footy to talk about. We are through round 14, and joining me today as my co-host, one of the most unique podcast names that I have to do, so I have to do it a little bit slower. The Chaps Chat Cats podcast, one of my good friends, Tim, joining us again on the podcast. Tim, it is great to see you again, sir.
How's it going, mate? Good to be here. And yeah, glad to talk some footy with you.
Yeah, always great. I always have to go slow on the podcast because the conveniently well done Chaps Chat Cats is always one of my favorite ones. These guys talk everything cats, AFL, AFLW, VFL, and VFLW. They are all over it. Absolutely love it, sir. Let's jump right into it. We have got through round 14. Six was seven lovely games to talk about, including one that I know my co-host is going to absolutely be chuffed as all get out. Thoughts on round 14?
Yes. Can't wait to get into it. Shall I just launch into all my thoughts about the Cats off the top or?
I mean, if you want to.
Yes. Yes, I do. I'm very excited. I'm very excited about this. Um, I had good feelings. I had good vibes going into this game. Um, Felt pretty confident that we were going to get the job done, but um, pleasantly surprised by the ruthlessness of Geelong. There's these games, I think, across the last few seasons, a lot of Cats fans tend to get their jocks in a knot, going like, "Wow, well, that would have been a good percentage booster. We should have really," and we don't. We win by 5, 6, 7 goals, which is still nice. But on the weekend, to outscore the Bombers 91-31 in the second half, and I think it was 47-1 behind in the last quarter, like just nice to see that appetite. And it was something we used to talk about back in 2022. The difference between 2021, where we went out in the prelim to Melbourne, and then the 2022 season was Geelong looked like they were having fun again playing
Mhm.
footy. And I thought you've seen that on the weekend, that Geelong looked like they were having a lot of fun playing their brand of footy, that high pressure turnover and counter attack thing that they do. And oh, it was a lot of fun as a Cat supporter to watch that
Mhm.
unfold.
Yes, definitely for sure. It was definitely. We'll have some more fun. We'll break down the game just the littlest bit. Not that there was much to break down besides the Essendon defense. Let's jump right into it. Round 14, Thursday night footy, and we see a little bit of a clangor as Ross Lyons men's don't show up as they get smashed by the Western Bulldogs 132 to 60. Again, another primetime belting that we were served up.
Yeah, it was a belting. It's just before, just speaking of clangers, I just realized I've currently using my dad's computer, and so when you've called me Tim at the start, I'm thinking that's my dad's name. Oh, my name's
Oh,
Jake, and then I've
crap.
realized
Sorry, Jake.
it's his Zoom. No, it's his Zoom, and I haven't changed the name, so that's why. That's why it says Tim.
I'm
I
sorry
was like,
about that, Jake. I was like, oh my God. I'm
no,
like, why
no,
does
it's
that
my
not
bad
look right?
entirely. Totally my bad. So yes. So this is what happens when you have to borrow someone else's computer. No,
Whoopsie.
like the Saints game, what are you thinking if you're a Saints fan at the moment? Like the season started out okay. They sort of looked hot. They knocked off the Cats, early in the year. This was a mauling. Plus 68, the Dogs were in touches, plus 27 inside 50s. Something that stood out to me looking at the stats from this game, like the Dogs, obviously the defensive pressure was high. They had plus 12 tackles inside 50. But it's the way for me that the Bulldogs can turn contested footy into fast, uncontested football.
Hmm.
I've got a good mate, Jack, who's a big Bulldogs fan. And, he was talking about the way they will draw a tackle or take on a tackle to open up space on that next possession. And you look at those numbers for them. They just had such a big advantage in uncontested footy, 51 extra touches. And what's crazy is it's on a night where Bontempelli doesn't have a huge night, it's Ed Richards, 25 touches, 7 clearances, 7 tackles, a goal. It's Matthew Kennedy, the Carlton sort of reject,
Mhm.
29 touches, 5 clearances, and a goal. 13 individuals for the individual goal kickers for the Dogs stood
Mhm.
out to me. So there's a spread of weapons. Um, I don't know if I can I swear on this show? Can I swear at
Go
all on
ahead.
this show? I
I
don't know a
love
little
it.
bit. I would be pissed. I would be really pissed if I was a Saints fan because Ross Lyon, so much is promised. We're going to go, beyond, the usual sort of average thing this year. And again, it just looks like such a predictable outcome for this season. And where do you go to from here? I don't
Mhm.
know. The Dogs are a strange side. They're very up and down, but it was a skewering on Friday night.
Well, there's one thing that I want to bring up. It was great to see Sam Darcy back, but oh my God, the hero worshiping that the announcers on every single footy show have done for his return is getting nauseating. I get it. The kid is good, okay? Sam Darcy is an incredible talent. He's got Ruckman size and height, but he's got the athleticism of a power forward and somebody. He's got abilities on both foot. He had one where he caught it along the boundary, along the camera side, turned on his left and absolutely put one absolutely centimeter perfect. Yes, I'll use Dennis committee. Dennis, my ode to you, sir. Hits on the chest on a leading mark, which leads to a goal. I get the kid is good, but oh my God, the hero worshiping just got nauseating after a while. Like I get it. I get it, but come on. But no, this is a Doggies team that when they want to, they can be absolutely almost impossible to stop, especially when you add Sam Darcy. Naughton kind of disappeared again, unfortunately, which seems to happen whenever he's got somebody else in the forward line that's just as talented as him or even more. He disappears. He becomes this apparition that you just can't find. But I mean, they're getting impact from everywhere. I mean, Buku Kamis has been able to play either forward or back, and he's played well. He's well. Rory Lobb, the as I've said numerous times, the addition via subtraction from Fremantle has found his kind of niche in the back line with the Western Bulldogs and has looked absolutely fantastic. I feel sorry for his fiance because that hair is ridiculous at times. But I did like that he did the fight MND last week, so I'll give him
Yeah.
one this year that I didn't mind. But other than that, like, oh my God, dude, like you are not your head is not a canvas for an artist, okay? It's just not. So, but rewind on that one. But no, the doggies looked absolutely sensational. I mean, Matt, again, I'm not going to sit here and say that Carlton regrets letting Matt Kennedy go because they just had a plethora of midfielders. They just couldn't keep them all. So he just happens to be the outcast. And he found a place that surprisingly, I was a little worried in the offseason. I'm like, where is he going to fit? They've got the same problem. Chalor, Bontempelli, Richard still probably goes in. You could probably flip Bailey Dale through there. Cody Waitman was another one before he got hurt, could go through the midfield to give you a
Mm.
spark. So him coming over to the Bulldogs, I was kind of like, I'm not seeing a progression of his career because he's going to a similar situation. Bevo's figured it out. Bevo has found a way to make it work, and he is flourishing over at the kennel. So it's great to see Matt Kennedy go well. But man, what a just an insipid performance by the Saints. Again, Rowan Marshall did everything that he could. I'll give a tip of my cap to Marcus Windhager. I mean, to shut out Bontempelli, which most people think is impossible to do, for him to literally shut Bontempelli out of the game, impressive young man. But after that, I mean, what else can we say about the Saints? That's really it. Like Marshall and Windhager were really it. After that, I mean, Nisai Wangani Miller is going to get his touches. He's off halfback, and when your team gets the ball in your defensive half, you're going to get a lot of disposals. So that's going to happen. But other than that, that's really about it. Like, and that's the sad part. Like, this is a Saints team. I agree with you. There was a lot of when Ross Lyon was hired, there was a lot of talk about, okay, this is the guy that's going to do it. And now they've kind of quietly gone into rebuild mode. And when did they get off of we're a finals team to rebuild mode? Like, when did that happen? I'm a little confused. So I don't know. It's just very frustrating that a team that I thought they made some good signings. I thought they did some things that, especially the McRae signing, I thought would help them, and it just really hasn't done anything. And I don't know what to say on that one. Let's jump to Friday night footy. A dour experience for some, but and this is maybe the coach in me. I got a thrill out of this game. A 3-point thriller down in Tasmania as the Hawks survive a scare from the Crows, 47-44. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that was the final score, 47-44. Hawks get the win, and the Crows got to be kicking themselves if they can actually kick straight, unfortunately, which is another issue that they had in this game. But man, the discourse off of this got so far off the footy, it's kind of frustrating because everybody like, see, this is why they want the roof down at Macquarie Point, is because of footy like this. Man, the MCG has no fucking roof, and you get days like this that are wet and cold. I hate people trying to make excuses off of this. Was this the greatest game of footy to watch? No. Was this a good game of footy because it was defensively sound? Both teams really played really well defensively, and there were so many skill errors due to the conditions. Yes. It's really annoying that this has become kind of a trumpeting point for the people that want the roof at Macquarie Point.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I'll pick up on just a few footy thoughts, but then I would love to offer some thoughts about the roof and the Tassie
Sure.
Stadium and all that sort of stuff because I had strong takeaways there. Um, this was like a pretty even statistical game. Like I went through
Hmm.
the stats and was looking like where was the edge, where wasn't the edge, and there most of it was in a within a bull's roar of each other in most key areas. Now
Hmm.
I think it's a pretty obvious one really. Like the Crows can look at their own goal kicking. The
Yep.
second half Hawthorn kicked 4 goals, 7-31 to 1-7-13
Hmm.
after half time. And you look at your big stars up forward, Walker, Philthorpe, Rochelle combined for 0 goals, 8 on the
Hmm.
night. So, if you kick 0 goals, 8 between three players of their quality and their usual impact, like you're not going to win a lot of
Yep.
games of football. On the stadium thing, like I was just trying to look through quickly through the AFL fixture and like look at the games that have been played down at University of Tasmania because I thought this was such a funny sort of pointed thing of like, the next two games down there are a twilight game on
Hmm.
June 28th and a 1:20 p.m. game in a few weeks in July. Last season and the seasons before, I don't remember too many games being scheduled of an evening down in Launceston.
Hmm.
And it raises the point for me. Doesn't this seem like a very convenient straw man for the AFL to beat everyone over the head with?
Hmm.
Oh, look, this is why we can't have games. We can't play games down here. The weather's terrible. It's too cold. It's this, it's that. Well, excuse me for noticing, but almost exclusively the games down in Tasmania that I've seen previously are
But
played at like
afternoon.
1:20
Yep.
on a
Afternoon
Sunday
games. Yep.
afternoon.
Yep.
So I don't know. It seemed very interesting to me that just as all this debate happens, oh, we happen to have a night game scheduled down in Tasmania and it looks awful. So talk about trying to make big conclusions off a tiny sample size. I'm with you. Footy should be played in the weather. I'm not a big fan of roofed stadiums. I get that the AFL, everything they want to do is about making money, so they want it to be a concert venue. But um, I don't know. If a stadium roof kills this thing, I will be very upset
No, I'm
if
100%
that's
with
the
you.
sticking point.
No, 100% with you. Tazzy, I had this discussion last week and I'm 100% with it. Let the team go. Like I get that you want the roof on the stadium because you want this ability to draw people down there because you don't because some people are not going to want to go to Tassie in the middle of winter to go watch footy. I get that. But why are you playing the sport in winter then if you don't want people to have to deal with the weather conditions? Like you're saying something, but then you're contradicting it by having the season when you do. Like I I I
Mhm.
don't know. It's just very frustrating. Like, um, at first I thought it was the politics. Like, it was the politics getting in the way of the sport because the politics were just trying to They were trying to get a one up on everything, and it just really gets annoying. But the AFL stance on this, I get it. They're trying to look tough, but for me, they just look like bullies at this point. They're like we're standing on something that honestly is not that big a deal. Conveniently, that they get a Friday night footy game, so then they can see, look nationally, look at the crap footy you get, and it's just like it's such a pathetic look. Like, was the game horrible to watch? No, I don't think it actually was. I think you had two good teams that
Yeah.
played some good football. Both were good defensively sound. You're going to get skill errors in this. I mean, you're seeing scoring dip a lot over these next few weeks because you're starting to hit the heart of winter. This thing happens every year. At the start of the year, it's warmer, the scores are higher. As you get into these doldrum days between rounds 12 through 18, you're in the heart of the winter you're in the heart of the winter time, so you're going to get rain, you're going to get cold, you're going to get wet, you're going to get wind. Damn it. Just accept the scores are going to go down. The footy's going to be a little less clean, and let's just see what happens. And it's just very, very frustrating. So I'm 100% with you. I just think this is going to be used to whack Tassie over the head and say, Tassie government, this is why we want this, where it's like, even the Marvel Stadium game. I mean, look at the Marvel Stadium game. The one team scores 60 points and it's perfect conditions. The deck is perfect. There's not a breath of wind in a stadium, and a team scores 60 points. Only 13
I,
more
I
than.
just went
Go ahead.
yeah, I just went and looked back at all the games at Launceston, um 2023 to now. So in 2023 and 2024, no game was played later than 1:45 p.m. at
Mhm.
Launceston. There was 10 games. They were all either 12:30, 1:10, or 1:45. This
Yep.
year they've had two 7:30 games. There's a 4:15 p.m. game, and then they've got an afternoon game to end. You
Yep.
cannot tell me that isn't somewhat
Hmm.
that smells fishy to me. The
Yep. Nope.
season
I
where
get
we're
it.
talking about this, suddenly we've got these night games. That's
And that
fishy.
and that first
Fishy.
night. Go ahead. And that first night game, the other thing that I said I noticed was the one thing everybody complained about was the wind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Remember? Yep.
And
Yep.
do you know what's really frustrating is that the AFL picks and chooses on their pet projects, because we had a prelim final um, played in 2016 in front of 21,000 people at Spotless Stadium for the GWS Giants.
Hmm.
So GWS can have prelim finals hosted in front of 22,000 people at their home stadium, but we can't have a ground in Tassie that doesn't have a roof
Hmm.
because quality of football. Oh, we can't host primetime games there. Miss me with that. It's bullshit.
Or Geelong can't play home. Geelong can't play home games though. They've got the better record against a Collingwood or an Essendon in the finals because we have to have 100,000 people. Sorry,
Yep.
I'm gonna
Make
constantly
it make
go on.
sense.
Yeah, I know it doesn't. Again, it's I've had this argument with so many people. Like, the AFL does not understand that it is so skewed. It is so skewed in many ways, and there are things that I think they could do to fix it, but I just don't know if they've got the cojones to do it. So unfortunately, we'll move off our kicking and complaining of AFL because we're literally punching a brick wall on that one. So let's jump up to the Gabba in Brisbane, where we see a shocker as the Giants go into the Gabatois and get a win, 107-96. Unfortunately, the injuries are starting to pile up
Mm.
as Jack Payne goes down with a knee injury, and unfortunately, I think his season is done. But man, the Giants, they found a way to get the tsunami going. But the Brisbane Lions, kind of doing the same thing that they did last year. They're having this really bad lull in the middle of the year.
Yeah, inaccuracy hurts.
Hmm.
Like this game, the Lions manufacture 31 scoring shots to 22. So +9 in scores. They kick 13-18 to 17-5. I mean, really,
Yep.
that's the story, isn't it? Archie, Berry, Ashcroft, and Cameron combined to kick 0 goals, 8. In a
Hmm.
game you lose by 11 points, to have players of that quality have 8 shots, for 8 behinds. the Lions plus 14 hitouts, plus 6 clearances, plus 14 marks. Something that stuck out to me in this game, they were minus 14 in tackles. The Brisbane Lions laid only 28 tackles
Hmm.
in 4 quarters of football. That, even for a low tackling team, that seems pretty bad to me. And this is a game that they could have had control with. They were up nearly 4 goals nearing halftime. They concede 10 of the next 12 goals, from the 24:50 minute mark of the second term to 13 minutes 23 in the fourth quarter. They have the last 6 scores of the game to try and win it. They kick 2 goals for. So, much like the Crows, you sort of look at it and go, particularly Brisbane at home in what I gather was pretty decent weather.
Hmm.
You kick 13-18, you're going to lose a lot of games of footy. And it really sorry for Jack Payne to have his
Hmm.
season end that way. It's very sad.
Yeah, very, very, very frustrating. But it's kind of showing that game against Adelaide, where they could not kick a goal in the fourth quarter to take over that game, it wasn't a blip. It's unfortunately Brisbane, their goal kicking coach may need a little more practice with the boys because they are not finding the center sticks very much so. And it's rather frustrating. And I got to give this kudos to the Giants because after Toby Green went down, I was worried this Giants team was going to so to see them step up and get a big win without Toby Green on there shows there's still a lot of class in this Giants side. Like I said, hopefully they can bounce back. And yes, this is coming from a Swans fan that I'm hoping that the Giants can kind of get their form back to where it was earlier in the year. So move to the next one. And as I said, a chuffed co-host I have with a 95-point win, 151-56. And these cats were absolutely ruthless. I mean, there was no stopping them. Jeremy Cameron, you superstar, Close, Myers, all of the small forwards had themselves a day. Max Holmes again, but a fantastic game for the Cats. Man, as the Cats man that you are, how chuffed you're like as you said, they put the foot on the throat and did not let Essendon up. They capitalized on an undermanned Essendon team. Impressive, impressive win by now the second place Cats.
Yeah, it was impressive. We spoke about it on the Chaps podcast last night, and we said it wasn't our best win of the season, because I think you got to apply the context of your opponent and that sort of thing, and
Hmm.
the strength of your opponent, and there are a number of games that I'd rank as better wins, but in terms of a ruthlessness, in terms of shades of those, it's something that always used to happen in that sort of 2007 to 2011 era, where the Cats were just seemingly winning every other week. Like, a hallmark of it was just going in against an opponent, and it was just an example of a difference in weight class. Like, I thought the Bombers had moments where they were able to, I think, around stoppages in particular, they opened the Cats up a few times. I think that is an area of weakness at times for Geelong, is defending scoring from stoppages. But like, I actually was a bit disappointed. I mean, obviously not as a Cats fan, but as a Bombers fan, I would have been disappointed that Essendon didn't stick to their guns. To me, there was
Hmm.
times in the first half where they just took the game on at speed. They tried to use their hands to get out of the trouble. Sometimes they got caught, sometimes they didn't. But it was the only way they were ever going to hurt Geelong. And as soon as they started trying to chip around and transition slowly and methodically out of the back line, that that is asking to be spanked by this
Hmm.
Geelong team. I mean, that plays right into our hands.
Exactly the way they
Um,
want to defend. Exactly.
Massively impressed with Cameron and Neil, 10 goals too between them. But for me, and I know rightfully there'll be a lot of talk about Max Holmes and Bailey Smith. It's the bit part players who have taken their games to other levels this season
Hmm.
that have turned Geelong into a flag contender, of a quite legitimate quality again, because it's people like Mark O'Connor,
Hmm.
a guy who before the season I said, will he be in the side? Will he be VFL? His last 5 weeks of footy, he's averaging 20 touches, 8 marks, and 4.4 tackles. It's
Hmm.
Tom Atkins who leads the team in
Yep.
clearances, leads the team in tackles. It's all these little bit part role players who have taken their games to other levels. That is the key. That
Hmm.
is the key, because it's those guys playing instead of younger guys who aren't quite ready yet, who are toiling in the VFL. So
Hmm.
hats off to the dudes who maybe don't make the headlines because it's their work, I think, and their heavy lifting that then allows the quality guys on top to really make the difference.
100%. And Ollie Dempsey, I'm going to say this. I want to hear your thoughts on this. Personally, right now, if I were to make an all-Australian team right now, my two wings are Steel Sidebottom of the Collingwood Magpies and Ollie Dempsey. Those are my two wings currently, right now. I think those should be the two all Australian wings right now because Ollie Dempsey, what he does, he may not have the most touches. Like I know there was a game this year that he only had 14 touches, but he had two goals and four scoring involvements.
Yeah.
So he may not be a massive touch person or possession. Again, I hate the touch part because a touch and a possession are two completely different things. Don't get me started on that on the broadcast when they're like, he only has one touch. I said, no, he has one possession. You can touch the footy and never possess it. You can tap it to a person. You don't get a stat for it. So let's not go on that one. But Ollie Dempsey is one of those. He can be a low possession guy, but a major impact when he does possess it. And what he does on the wing is ridiculous. I watched one time, they labbed him up one time. He went from one goal square to center to the other goal square, back to the center, back to the goal square in like 15 minutes and like was hitting top speed in the process. The kid is done fantastic. I know he's still growing. There's some games he has his headaches, but man, has he been fantastic to watch and making a scoreboard impact on the wing for Geelong has only helped that team out. So for me personally, I don't know what you think, but I think Ollie Dempsey has a huge case to be with Steel Sidebottom as the other All Australian wing this year.
I'd love for it to happen. I have a feeling that, as usual, they're going to pack the AFL, sorry, yeah, the AFL All Australian out with, a bunch of midfielders. There'll be midfielders playing forward. There'll be midfielders on halfback. There'll be midfielders on the wing. I hope I'm wrong because Ollie Dempsey is, we talked about this ahead of last year's preseason. I've watched every game Ollie Dempsey's played at VFL level and at AFL level for the Cats. I've watched him grow. And there were signs of this in 2023 when he was
Hmm.
playing in the VFL, where he was averaging, 18, 20 touches a game, where he's kicking goals. And it all bloomed, in 2024. And that was just the beginning. I think he's got miles to go to reach his best footy yet. And I really think that down the track, we're going to see him play some time on ball at times as well. I think you've even heard Chris Scott allude to that at times, talking about we love his work in close, in close quarters. And I think that's very true. I think down the track, as he fills out a little bit, and as the dynamic of the team perhaps changes, I could see him spending stints on ball. He did it at VFL level and was very good at it. But he's a joy to watch. He's such a dangerous and damaging player. And yeah, he's become a fan favorite very quickly down at Geelong.
He's he's one of mine. Like when I sit down and watch the long matches, I want to watch the wing and I want to see what Ollie does because again, his work ethic is fantastic. I agree with you. I love Tommy Atkins. I think what he does, he's a lot like Libba without the Libba name. Like I completely agree
Yeah.
with that. Um, the defense, as much as Tommy Stewart gets all of the raps, I am loving his supporting cast has played well. Jack Henry's back now from injury, which really helps.
Mm.
The youngster, what's his name? I He was one of those that I really
Connor
wanted.
O'Sullivan.
Connor O'Sullivan. He was one I remember talking with my draft expert. I kept asking him, I go, is there any way he could fall to where Sydney is? And the draft expert goes, there's no way. He goes, as much as I know you want it to happen, the kid is too sought after. And when Geelong drafted him, I went, oh, because I went, he's perfect. He's perfect for their system because he's a tall, athletic forward. So he's Tommy DeConing, but he's more used to defense than what DeConing was when he first came in. I'm like, man, that's a perfect draft pick. And Geelong got the steal of the draft in that situation, and he's shown exactly what draft experts and what I kind of saw in his tape. It's like great defender, great upside with such a young body. I've loved seeing him. Tommy Stewart coming back and kind of, as you said, that chip kicking that Essendon did. Just let Tommy Stewart go. Okay, I'm just gonna sit in the hole. As soon as you go down the line, it's mine. And that's literally all he did. So, and this Cats team is just, they're so good. And they're so much fun to watch because no matter who's in what spot, they get the job. They usually get the job done. So it's always fun to watch. I've always respected the Cats. So that's why I love going back and forth with you because I know that we both support clubs that have this rich history of they defy
Mm.
odds a lot of times. They do it when you don't always expect them to. So again, so just love the Cats. I think it'd be fun to see how they go this year because they're going to be so much fun to watch. Let's jump out to the West and North Melbourne home game at Optus Stadium against Fremantle. And holy crap, they almost pulled off the upset, but the Dockers get it done with a 6 point win, 73-67. I know Ruse faithful are tired of these great losses or honorable losses or however you want to mention it. But damn it, this was impressive because they damn near stole 4 points from the Fremantle Dockers on their home turf, even though it was their home game.
I I had like a grumpy old grandpa moment where I had to get someone to explain this to me when they said now we're heading off to Perth to for the Kangaroos v the Dockers, and it listed the Kangaroos as the home team. I said, "Excuse
Mhm.
me, what is this? Can someone help Grandpa Jake understand this?" Yeah, look, how brutal, I guess, for North fans. Like since 2022 to now, they have won 11 games of football the last 4 years or 3.5 years, 11 games of footy. Geelong might clear that by, round 15 or 16. It's brutal for these teams who are down toiling at the bottom end, and particularly when your talent leaves and goes other places to play. Sounds a bit rich, coming from a Geelong fan, but you know, it's hard. It's hard in this system of free agency and trade. If you're losing all the time, it's hard to keep your players. It was close late in the second term. This match, Freo kicked 5 goals to lead by nearly 30 near three-quarter time, but then they went on to concede 6 of the next 7. They're such a weird team. Obviously, Luke Jackson goal late to give them the 4 points, but Kangaroos plus 12 in inside 50s, plus 4 in clearances, plus 22 in tackles inside 50. They led 29 tackles inside 50. Um, it's not the be all and end all, but just as a brief sort of snapshot, Sarong and Brayshaw, 67 disposals, 19 tackles, 17 clearances. But North had 9 of the top 15 fantasy players. And I know fantasy points aren't, super
Hmm.
analytical measure, but that's still 9 players who did quite a bit of those top 15 were the Roos players. The big killer for me for North Melbourne was they went inside 50 60 times and kicked just 10 goals.
Hmm.
Only 6 marks inside 50. So that's going to hurt you. And so, like it is with all these teams that are struggling and trying to redevelop, you have a game where you do two or three parts of the game really well, but then there's a fourth or a fifth that you fall flat on, and the entries inside 50, and manufacturing scoring shots just didn't happen for them. I don't know what to think of Fremantle. They're a bizarre, bizarre football club.
No, I'm 100% with you. They're so Jekyll and Hyde. I don't know what I'm going to get each game. There are games they look scintillating, they look fantastic, and then there are games like this where they almost play down to their opponent's level, and it's very very frustrating because this was a team that I think some people kind of looked at. They looked at the list and they went, and this is a chance. This is a chance to be a flag contender. This is a chance to be a third weekend finals team, I mean preliminary final type of team, and they really haven't capitalized on that. Again, it took a little bit for Shy Bolton to kind of warm up to the Dockers group. I think he's starting to find his groove out in the West. We'll see how that changes this team, but they have these lulls that they have the full game lulls where they lull and they keep teams in it or they lose to teams that they probably shouldn't. And I agree with you. This is a Jekyll and Hyde Dockers team, like several teams in the AFL this year that as soon as I think I've got them figured out, it's like they just move just enough that I have no idea. Like, and it's very frustrating. With the Roos, I know way too many Roos fans, and there's a frustration starting to grow because They were promised, they were given this bag of goods by Clarko, or at least were told that this was what you were going to get with Clarko. And it really hasn't materialized yet. And do I get the fact that he had full years coaching of the 3 years that he's been there? No. I mean, two of them he's had to deal with something going on to where he hasn't been with the
Mm.
team. So this is really his first full year with the team. But even still, third year under his philosophy, third year under his system, third year under his coaching, and I'm still seeing North. And I don't mean that in a diss, but it's kind of the truth. Like I'm still seeing North situations. I'm not seeing Clarko footy. I'm still seeing North footy. And I think that's a little frustrating for me because right now, as a person who bought into Clarko's the greatest coach ever, I'm starting to doubt it a little bit. And I know maybe it's a little bit of the cast that he's got is not the same as what he had at Hawthorn, but I'm starting to doubt it a little bit because I'm not seeing the magical powers of Clarko come to fruition right now. And maybe it's me. Maybe it's my expectations. Maybe they're too high. I don't know. But it is rather frustrating to see a North team that if you look at them on paper, there's some talent there. There's some really good footy players and I'm just not seeing the development or the growth that I was expecting under a coach of this vaunted, vaunted thought process when it comes to it because of the premierships that he won at Hawthorn. So I don't know. Again, both these teams annoy me. Fremantle can't make up their minds whether they want to be good, and I think North just has never. They have not materialized into the team that I thought they would be 3 years into Clarko coaching them. And again, like I said, maybe it's my expectations. I don't know. So we'll jump over to the Adelaide Oval.
It's
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, just quickly, I was just going to say it's going to be really interesting to look back retrospectively at this North team because remember, like they knocked Geelong out of the finals. I think it was in 2016.
Hmm.
They might have even played in a prelim, in the mid sort of 2010s
They did.
somewhere there,
Yep, against
and
Sydney. I remember that
and
one.
then and then they offloaded Petrie, they offloaded Boomer Harvey,
Javi,
and
Del
that was
Santo,
sort
and
of
there
a
was one
lot of
more.
the
There was four of them, and they all had damn
yeah.
near 300 games. And it seems like since that day, the entire house of cards has come toppling to the ground, and they'll get two or three cards up, but then their next card that they try to
Mm.
put on topples it right back down to the floor again.
It's just I just wonder if they are going to be one of those teams that was caught in in the middle of the league transitioning from one way of thinking to another because now you look at clubs, you look at Brisbane, you look at Geelong, you look at Collingwood. You know, Collingwood haven't offloaded all those old players. There's I think people now more understand the value of having those old guys in the room. Like they can
Mhm.
still offer something on the field, but it's how they bring that next generation through. I think North were almost caught on the tail end of that idea that was widely accepted of, well, once you've been up for a while, you've got to blow it up and start again with fresh draft picks.
Mhm.
So it'll just be really interesting to look back historically, say in another 10, 15 years when you map out the transition of the thinking of the league and were North, just caught on the tail end of an old way of thinking, and it's proving really hard to get back up that ladder.
Yep, no, I agree with you. In fact, I would even lump West Coast into it too. But West Coast was the
Yep.
opposite. It wasn't that they got rid of them, it was that they kept some of the veterans too long. And it's kind of
Mm.
interesting that now they both did it two opposite different ways, but they're both in the same problem is that they're both toiling down at the bottom and having trouble because they're drafting a lot of young superstars, but there's either not enough veteran leadership or there's veteran leadership that's not progressing because they're holding back some of the young talent. It's a fascinating dichotomy, and which is really interesting because North picks up Luke Parker from Sydney, and now Sydney's midfield seems to be all helter skelter because the veteran leadership that was there with Luke Parker is now at North, but North has got him. He's playing super well, but they're not seeing the progress of some of the young midfielders. It's this really weird, just really weird kind of dichotomy out of this whole thing because it's like, what is the problem? Where's the
Mm.
problem? And we can't really break it down to one thing because, as we see with North and then with West Coast, it's two completely different things that kind of both involve. how they handle their veterans. There was no like perfect middle ground between the two. One absolutely chopped him, and Boomer Harvey was still playing super football. I think he probably could have had at least one more, if not two more years in the AFL. Petrie was playing well. Del Santo, I think Del Santo was playing really well too. So I didn't really get the decision at the time. And then West Coast was the exact opposite. I think they held on to that 2018 premiership like a bear hug. And because of those veterans, the Shoeys, I'm trying to think of who else
Mm,
was Nick Nat Newies, some of those veterans that were on the team that they bear hugged them and held them on too long instead of maybe looking to
mm,
see if they could deal them to get assets to let their youngsters. So it's been kind of that fun little, but to see both those teams handle it differently, but both kind of now have the same issue, it's very interesting because it's not just one certain thing. But I agree with you. I think
mm,
clubs are starting to now embrace holding on to veterans a little bit more. And as you see with Collingwood, with Steele Sidebottom and Scott Pendlebury, it's like they've drank from the fountain of youth. They're back to some of their best football they've ever played, and they're some of the oldest players in the entire competition. So it just shows you, it just also
mm.
depends on the environment that you're in too, on whether it works or not. So we'll jump over to the Adelaide Oval as Port Adelaide with a nice smashing of the North of Melbourne, 93-68. Old Melbourne is back, can't kick straight. And Mitch Georgiades, have yourself a day, young man.
Is the bag back? That's what I'm starting to think. Georgiades kicked 7. Jesse Cameron kicked 6. There
Yep,
was what? There was a 5-goal haul and a 6-goal haul in the Brisbane GWS game.
yep.
I know it's not the 14 goals of the 80s and 90s, but it is nice to see forwards kicking plenty of goals.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, what God, talk about teams and how they manage their talent and can you when Melbourne flogged us in that 2021 prelim final and then went on and won the granny, I thought, wow, this Melbourne team is just going to be
It's a
they're going to be
dynasty.
here every year. Yeah.
Hmm.
And how quickly they've fallen away. I mean, this one again, we've talked about inaccuracy hurts. 14 goals, 9 to 9 goals, 14. It's the
Hmm.
perfect mirror of scoring efficiency, but Port spread better than
Yep, I
Melbourne did.
agree.
Melbourne won the contested footy, but we know that it's not just about that. The Power were plus 42 in uncontested possessions. They were plus 34 in marks. I think it hurt the Demons that Bailey Fritsch kicked 2 goals, 3.
Yep.
I think in the past, that's probably a 4 goals, 1 for Bailey Fritsch, but he's a bit off the boil as well. So
Hmm.
uh, I I'm fascinated to follow this Melbourne club because, to be honest, I think there's a few clubs, probably including the one I support, who will be just circling like vultures, going, "Oh, so you're unhappy with your current situation?"
Hmm.
And I think there'll be a few clubs at the top who are going, let's pick over the bones of this Melbourne former premiership winning group and see who we can prize away. I know they've now got Pickett locked down, um, but I don't know. I think there's a few of those players who might be lesser names, but just as big impact players who might get picked away if they don't turn their situation around.
Yep, no, I'm 100% with you. You could see some of these youngsters that are still kind of in the wings, shall we say, especially when they're bleeding some of the youngsters that they are, and some of them have been playing well. But
Yeah.
man, some of these youngsters, they're going to be ripe for the picking because of the big numbers that they're giving that you still have under Oliver, Petrarca, and now Pickett signing that incredible deal, which again, he's earned it. The way he's played, he's earned it. But the big issue will be is that with all of these big numbers under two or three contracts, it's you're going to look at guys like Rivers, you're going to look at guys like Bowie, you're going to look at guys like Chandler, you're going to look at guys that literally they're going to be ripe for the picking because they're not going to get the money that they probably deserve. They're good players, but they're not going to get the money they deserve. Teams like a Geelong, as you say, teams like a Port Adelaide, teams like Brisbane are going to be like, hey, coming up, you may not get as much money, but you're going to have a chance to win, and you're not going to have to deal with you're not going to have to deal with Oliver and Petrarca and the drama with them every year, and you don't have to worry about. And it's going to happen. And I think that's the frustrating part about it is I agree with you. Like when they won that premiership in 21, I go, oh dear God, we got another dynasty. Like we just got off the Richmond one. Now's the Melbourne one.
Yeah.
Like you could almost see it. Like Oliver and Petrarca were still young. Gon was finding his form after finally being healthy with no knee injuries. They had May, they had Lever that they both got from other clubs, and they're this dynamic defensive duo you just couldn't get by. They had Ben Brown at the time had kind of found his a revamp. Bailey Fritsch was still as dangerous as all get out, and I went, we have a dynasty. And then the next year, that kind of fell apart in the regular season after starting off so well because I think they were like 9-0 or 10-0, and then Sydney knocks them off
Mm.
in the qualifying final, and it was like that kind of started the descent, and they've just kept falling down. And this year, their inaccuracy kicking goals has just absolutely bit them in the ass every single time it can. So I don't know what's happened to this once great club. We'll have to see. But man, I don't know. Max Gone is the one I keep an eye on because if he goes, could we see a mass exodus? That'd be the thing. Well, I mean,
I,
Max is getting up there. He's not in a spring chicken anymore. So
yeah.
if he goes, if he retires, do we see a mass exodus out of the Melbourne Footy Club? I don't know. I Or do you see this off season? Do one of Petrarca or Oliver get moved to open up cap space to kind of keep the rest of the core together? Do they sacrifice a superstar to keep the group together? I think that is the more likely situation that'll happen is they're going to dump one of them so then they can open up that money. And honestly, I think it's Clary Oliver. I think this is the one that gets dumped. And it's weird to say because he's such a great player. He is, but right now he's not proving it. I mean, when they're tag rolling, they're making him a tagger, and I know the stories out there. He wanted to do it. I get it, but as much money as this guy is being paid, being a tagger, what the hell? I don't know. So
It's an
we'll see.
expensive tag.
The most expensive tagger in the entire competition. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
all right, we'll go to the last game, and I kind of want to make this short, and it's not because it's West Coast, but just because, man, I watched the first quarter of this game, and I thought we were gonna get a triple digit score at halftime. Like legitimately, it was like 60, it was like 65 at halftime. I was like, they're gonna get a triple digit score by the end of the third quarter. And it was like at halftime, Voss went, okay, guys, we're good. We're good. We don't need to, we're good. We're going to win this game. And man, just the laissez-faire football after that. Like West Coast actually looked the better team in the second half, which is crazy because they lose Oscar Allen in this game to the injury. And again, I still haven't heard anything on what it is. I've looked at their injury report. I don't think I saw anything on there, but this is a game, 34-point win by Carlton, 86-52. But man, this was one that probably should have been a triple digit win for Carlton, and they just kind of went, we'll just take the W.
Yeah. And pain for Eagles fans. Kind of crazy to me. Like we played them a few weeks ago, and I was like, man, that building is like full. For a team that's, I just did the math before the show, 11 wins, 71 losses from
Mm,
2022 to now. And yet they consistently pile into that stadium. The atmosphere was really great, at least through the TV in that Cats Eagles game. And yet after that, which was a spirited effort, it's kind of it's all crumbled since then. So I don't know. Carlton are a bizarre team. I tend to think that they're sort of in a cluster of teams. It's like, yeah, they might scrape their way into the eight, but I personally don't know that it's worth spending much time thinking about them, to be honest. And then the Eagles, I'm fascinated to see how they go about, keeping that list motivated and together because it's hard when you're losing all the time. It was Oscar Allen. Wasn't there talk that he'd be off to Hawthorn?
hmm
There's obviously been the Harley Reid talk. As a Cats fan, I'm all too familiar with that. Like, it's hard. You got to start turning it around because, as we said before about North, like in this age of free agency and trade, players don't have to stick around. If
Yep.
they're miserable and they want to go and play elsewhere, they will. But really disappointing loss to concede 10 of the game's first 11 goals. Like
Hmm.
it's over after that. It's all done. You aren't coming back. So yeah, very, very disappointing from a West Coast perspective. And, you know, Carlton fans will be happy for the win, but I don't know what it means long term really for their aspirations this season. I mean, keeps them in contention for the finals.
Yeah, it gives them 4 points, but really, when it really comes to it, I don't see a huge positive in here. It just makes me question them more because they had their foot on the throat in the middle of the second quarter, and it was like they went, I think we've beat you up enough. You can stand up now." And that it was a weird game. Like I remember looking at the third quarter, going, "What happened? Like, where was this aggressive attacking Carlton that was in the first quarter? Like they just absolutely just they went for the jugular like that." And it was like they went, "Okay, I think we've beat you up enough. We're good." And I don't know. It's frustrating, this Carlton team, because again, and I know I've said it many times. If you look at the list on paper, this is a flag contender list. But I don't know what it is. Like when Georgie Hewitt is your best midfielder this entire season. I mean, what does that say? I mean, I know Sammy Walsh has fought injuries and Crippa has been tagged a couple of times, so I get it. But Georgie Hewitt's been their best midfielder this entire season. And anybody that tries to argue with you, just show them the stats. Georgie Hewitt is one of the best midfielders they have. He gets the football, he gets it out, he gets it. Blake Acres has fallen off a cliff from a couple of years ago when he was one of the best wings in the entire competition. Now he is an apparition out there. There are times I go, is Blake Acres even playing? Because I don't know what it is. I know Mackay and Kerno can't stay on the ground together. It's either one is injured or both are injured. It's a really weird thing with that. They're blooding players trying to get some things going, but I don't know what it is. And the defense has been played well now that Jack Silvani's kind of found his niche on the back. They've played well defensively, but offensively, just they have not found that right mix when it comes to forward entry and then scores. That they just I don't know what it is. And they're a very frustrating team because I look at some of the talent that they have and think this should be a team in the top four. This should be a team fighting for a flag. And they just it's like we go, "Oh, we're Carlton, we can't do that." And it's very frustrating because this is a Carlton club in the past was one of the most dominant clubs in the entire competition. But it's like in the last 15 years, they go, "Oh, we're Carlton, we can't do that. Well, we'll give you one tease year where we're really good. We almost make a grand final. But then, oh yeah, we're Carlton, we can't do that." And I feel bad for the Carlton faithful because they've had to deal with so much shit over the years, over these last 15, 20 years. And again, they keep being told this is a Carlton team. They can win the flag. They can win the whole thing. They can do it. And just to see this lackluster effort against a team in West Coast again, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, West Coast fans, this is a joke of a club right now. It is a joke. The Oscar Allen situation is a joke because they put him out there, and I've heard media people connect it to like a hostage video. I mean, he was almost crying to the point where I have a hard time seeing Oscar Allen staying at the West Coast. And you only beat them by
Mm.
34, especially when you kick so many goals to start the quarter. You kick the first 6 goals, and I mean, it was a bloodbath to start the game. And for it to just absolutely peter out like it did, it's kind of frustrating because this should have been a triple digit win. I don't care. This should have been a triple digit win, and it wasn't. And that's frustrating for me because Carlton need to show there's some fight in them. And this was just such a lackluster effort, and it's very frustrating. I'm gonna get off of it. I'm sorry, Jake. I don't mean to go on and on about that, but this is a Carlton team that has really pissed me off because they're far too good to be where they are. They're far too talented to be where they are. And I don't know if it's coaching. I don't know if it's between the ears of these players. I don't know. But I've been very frustrated with this Carlton team over the last 5 years because they tease the crap out of their fans who I know have been hurting for a long period of time. And they just
Mm.
have not been what they should be. And I know it's expectation compared to reality. I know that. But Ugh, so frustrating. So we'll jump to the burning questions. That is all seven games. Again, Collingwood, Gold Coast, Sydney, and Richmond got to kick their feet up on the couch this weekend, so they did not have to worry about playing. That is all for round 14. Let's turn the page. Burning questions. Let's go to it, sir. As a fan of a team that many people are putting in the flag contention, I'm going to ask you this. Are we starting to see a clear separation between the flag contenders and the field?
Yes. I personally think your flag winner in 2025 comes from one of three clubs. I think it's Magpies, I think it's the Lions, I think it's the Cats. I think those three lists, and I know Brisbane are, up and down now, but we know there's no flags won right now.
Yep,
So
agree,
I,
agree.
I just think those three lists just have such a good variety of young skill players, really, in peak age superstars, and then veterans who are still absolute quality. I think they're arguably the three best coaches in the league
Hmm.
as well.
I could see
I
that. Yep.
think it's one of those three teams. I think it's one of those three teams will win the flag.
There's
So yeah, I
only
do think we're seeing a separation.
there's only two that I think can get into that talk, but I worry that there's too much inconsistency in their games. That Gold Coast and Adelaide are the only other two that I think you could, but I kind of agree with you that it's like there is a deficiency in a little bit of both of their games that I think is going to hurt them. I think as you get further and further into the winter season, I think Gold Coast every time they have to leave the Gold Coast or leave Queensland, you could see them get exposed if they face um, inadequate, shall we say, weather conditions. I mean, we've noticed wet weather footy, they've had some issues. Adelaide, they're a bit too inconsistent for me, but if they figure it out, which I think they're getting
Mm.
closer to it, if they figure it out, they're there. I honestly believe they're there. If you look at their offense, if you look at how their defense has progressed, their one weakness is their midfield. They are not a great contested football team. Riley O'Brien is a solid ruckman, but he can be toweled up at times. Jordan Dawson can do great things, but can Saligo step up? Can Peatling? Can Isaac Cumming? Can their midfield work? Will Rory Laird have to go in just to be a grunt to get the footy out instead of playing off halfback like he has been this year? So the Crows I think can get there, but I'm with you right now. The top three sides that I think are flag contenders right now, no argument. Geelong, Brisbane, Collingwood, for sure. But I think Gold Coast and Adelaide can get there. It's will they make the adjustments over these next 8 to 9 rounds? Can they make the adjustments to put themselves there? Because if not, I agree with you. It's a three-team race. Everybody else, the other five, are just making up the numbers till we get to the preliminary final for sure. So I'm with you on that one. So we'll go to it. I've asked this question the last 2 weeks, and I'll ask it again as an Aussie. Um, what is your honest opinion on the bye period?
Look, I think there's bigger things to worry about. Really, it probably used to bother me more. I'll be honest. Since starting this podcast, I watch more of Geelong than I've ever watched in terms of it's every AFL game, it's every VFL game, it's every
Mhm.
AFLW game. If there's AFLW listed players in the VFL, I watch that. So I don't have as much time to watch all these other games. Like, I used to
Mhm.
watch kind of everything. So then that would bother me a bit because it would muck up my routine. But look, I think it's a necessary part of playing longer seasons.
Mhm.
I think that's just a fact. The season stretches longer. There's more games. There is only ever going to be more games. For anyone listening, going, one day we'll go back to just playing 20 games or something. Not going to happen. They will push for 24. They'll push for 25. We'll get
Yep.
26. Who knows? One day we might have a 30 game season. They'll shorten the games so they can make more games happen. But I think in that sense, like, I think the buys are we don't think we like to think about it as an inconvenience for us as fans, but from a club perspective, like health management,
I
you
agree.
speak to
Yep.
anybody, what's the language out of Geelong whenever they talk about it? We want to get our best list on the park at the right time.
Hmm.
Same with Collingwood. It's the same with Brisbane. It's the same with everyone at that pointy end. How
Hmm.
can we get our list in position at the right time? And I think buys play a massive part of that. So look, I've learned, I've become accustomed to it. It is what it is. There's a few buys in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
So be it.
No, and I look at it like this. One of the biggest proponents of less games, and again, I agree with you with the media rights deals that they signed, but one of the biggest proponents of less games has been your stalwart former president of the Players Association, Patty Dangerfield. I mean, let's just be honest. I've said it a couple of times. There's a utopian way that I think they could actually get away to both the men's and the women's seasons would get playing every team every game, but it's never going to happen because the media will not let it happen because they don't want less games. They want more games because then they can make more money. That's simply the way it is. Um, I'm with you. And maybe this is a little bit of the Swans red hat Donnie coming in here. This buy has come at the perfect time for us because I'm looking at our injury report, and there's a possibility of Tommy Papley and Errol Goulden both coming back this round. And I don't know if that happens if there's a buy where they could get a good solid training into these guys that have been injured. So I in the back of my mind, I know the buy is good for these guys' healthy bodies. And I understand that the media is going to bitch about it because there's less games to talk about. And I get that. I understand that. That's their job. They're paid to complain. They're paid to whinge and suck about how things aren't the way they want it to be. Not that any of them actually come up with any good ideas, anyways. Again, shot there. I don't care. But I don't mind the buys. I know many of these teams, they need a break. They've been playing 7, 8, 9 games in a row. Let their weary bodies rest 1 week. Let them get a trip to Bali. Let them go to Noosa. Let them go somewhere where the sun is. Let them enjoy a couple of days where they don't have to worry about beating the crap out of each other, and then let them go back to it. So I'm 100% with you on that. I understand it. I know if Tazzy does come in, then the bye weeks are going to be even more interesting because everybody's going to get a bye at least once during the season. So will
Yeah.
that eliminate the bye rounds to the point where you get a bye when you get your bye? That's just the way it turns out. I don't know. We'll have to see. It'll be interesting when that does happen, if and when that does happen. So the last one, as you know, sir, you've been on the podcast a couple of times. My third question is always about your club. So I want you be the rooster, puff your chest out. As the Cats man that you are, can this club make a serious run for the flag this year?
Yes. Yes. Um, and I'm not yeah, and it's a weird position to be as a Geelong supporter because most people hate you, and I understand it. We went down to watch the Cats and Saints at the end of 2023, and the Saints gave us a good old 5 or 6 goal flogging, and like their fans were absolutely giving it to us, and I get it, and that's
Hmm.
okay. You're allowed to do that because I said to my I said to my mother who we took to the game, I said you have to remember the amount of thrashings that we have
You've
dished out
given
to
now.
pretty
Yeah.
much everybody else. Like this is part and parcel. Like I'm getting to experience what it must have been like to be a New England Patriots fan,
Hmm.
sort of from like the year 2001 through to 2018.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, we can. Yes, we can win a flag. We talked about it last night on the pod, and Johnny jokingly said, "Oh, don't lift the lid off." For me, the lid's been off since 2007. This is the situation we're in. We are a flag contender pretty much every year.
Hmm.
More often than not, it won't happen because they're really hard to win. That's what being a Geelong fan has probably taught me more than anything else is that they're really, really, really hard to win because I know we've had some great teams not win flags. There are some tremendous Geelong teams, some tremendous Geelong players who have gone without a medal. They're really hard to win. Um, so I just try and take it season by season and game by game and enjoy it. But yeah, I think we're in a great position. If you think about the transition that this list has done, from end of 2022 to now, where the questions were, well, what happens once Cam Guthrie's gone? What happens once Joel Selwood's gone? What happens once Tom Hawkins is gone? And on the questions went, you now got a midfield core of Max Holmes and Bailey Smith, who are 23 years old and 24 years old. You've got a young core of like players like Ollie Dempsey, early 20s. Um, Connor O'Sullivan, he's think he's 20 years of age.
Hmm.
You've got youth in pretty much every line, and then you've got your top up veterans and sort of VFL mature age recruits in. And yeah, sorry, long-winded answer, but yes, I do think we can make a serious run, and I don't just think it's this year. I think that we're in position now to try and keep this absurd run going. It's I don't know how they do it, to be honest.
They're so smart. I know that there's people probably in my chat going, well, that's probably because they circumvent the salary cap. Yeah, I don't believe that myth. I think I agree with it. It's a lot like, as you said, it's a lot like the New England Patriots during their dynasty run there for the longest time, where it seemed like they were always making it to the AFC Championship game or at least the Super Bowl. Like every year they were there because people wanted to go there to win a title. So they were willing to take pay cuts. I don't think they're circumventing the salary cap. Are there a few things that I can understand look suspect? Yes. But I don't think Geelong is stupid enough. The club as a whole, I think they're very well run. They're not stupid enough to do something dumb. Again, do I see what people are saying when it comes to outlied looks like with Cotton on and then whatever Coach Scott's odd job that he has that conveniently is one of their, I don't know what it is. I don't dive into that. I hate that stuff because I think it's just conspiracy theorists having fun in sports, which just annoys the crap out of me. The Cats are good at what they do. They attract people to come play for them for lower money on longer years because they want to win premierships because that's what the Cats have been doing. They're always there. They're always in contention. I don't think Baz has come down to Geelong to get paid millions of dollars. He came down there to win a premiership. That's what he went down there for. He won one at the Western Bulldogs. He wants to win one there. He knows he's probably going to have to take a pay cut to go down to Geelong. He did it. I think he's happy. He's not in the fish bowl that is Melbourne anymore. He can have a little bit more of that. The Cats are just a team that literally every year I chalk up, they're probably going to make finals. Like I have a checklist, probably going to make finals, probably looking to be a preliminary finals team, and most likely has a good shot of being in the premiership window every year because they just make smart moves. They have never had a bad hire. They draft well. They progress well. There's a lot of things I've said numerous times. I think the Sydney Swans and Geelong Cats are mirror images of each other. Both technically, as you kind of said, interstate teams because they're not in Melbourne, they're looked almost as an interstate team despite being in Victoria. They both develop well, they draft well, and they sign smart free agents. Very rarely do they fuck up free agents. Let's just be honest. When they get free agents, they get good ones. They get ones that are going to make an impact. If they make trades, they make trades that are going to make an impact. Jeremy Cameron may have cost you a lot of draft capital, but look what he has done in the hoops. Let's just be honest. They were smart. Look at the Tim Kennedy trade. Look at that trade. I mean, 3 first round draft picks out of it. I mean, they are so smart. They're such a good club. They know how to maintain something that is very, very difficult. I don't want to see them fall because I'm so used to them being there. They're just such a smart club when it comes to it. It's going to be a weird day when it does happen. And to tell you, Jake, I
Mm.
don't want it to happen anytime soon. So I'm not wishing this. But when it does, it's going to be weird. It is going to be so weird when Geelong finally does kind of fall over that cliff. It will happen. There's no way they can make the perfect move every time. But man, this has been a ride for Cats fans that and many of them are great people, very respectful, very understanding. I know the grand final where you absolutely flogged the Sydney Swans. I went back and forth with a lot of Geelong fans, and they were so respectful, so kind. That some of them were even like, "We're sorry that that happened." And I go, "Don't be sorry. You did what you needed to do. You won the premiership. You spanked a team that wasn't ready. All respect there." And that's all they've been to me. Again, I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit different at the ground. Sometimes, as you said, sometimes the floggings that you give, people don't always take it as well. But yeah, the Cats, they're there. They're right there. Them, Collingwood, Brisbane, are the three that I'm looking at right now going, one of them is going to be raising a flag unless Adelaide and Gold Coast find an absolute heater out of somewhere. I don't know.
Mm.
They're the only other two right now. Western Bulldogs too damn inconsistent, and the Fremantle too damn inconsistent. Essendon is too hurt. I don't think they make finals. I'm looking at GWS. I think they've been fighting injuries all year. They have the talent to do it. I just don't know if they're going to get there. So flag contender for me, like I said, it's three, maybe five teams right now, unless something drastic changes, and we'll have to see. But the big thing is, can they keep Dangerfield healthy and find him a spot where he doesn't impact other players? Because I think Jeremy Cameron had a few lulls there when Danger was up forward.
Mm.
Danger leaves, and look what Jeremy Cameron does after Danger leaves. He goes absolutely bonkers. Shannon Neal starts to find what he's doing. So, can they find that right spot for Danger? That'll be my question for them going on, because if they do, holy crap, they're going to be deadly. If they find that right spot to where Jeremy is still up and about, that will be fun to watch. So now we've waxed lyrical about Geelong, let's move on to the next section of the podcast. Coach takes over just the tiniest bit. My team of the week and power rankings. We'll start with team of the week. And I will say this, sir, there are a few names that you are going to like in this list for sure. So start on the defensive side of the ground. At the fullback line, we have Dizzy Daniel Turner of the Melbourne Demons, Carlton's Jacob Wiedering, and I'm going to give a shout out. Luke McDonald of the North Melbourne Roos had a fantastic game against Fremantle. He gets the last fullback spot. Starting halfback line, Nasiah Wanganeen Miller continuing to show why he should be one of the halfback flankers for the All Australian team. Miles Bergman of the Port Adelaide Power, and Geelong's Lawson Humphreys. Through the midfield, we have on the wings, we have Riley Sanders of the Western Bulldogs, and Geelong's Ollie Dempsey are on the wings. In the ruck, we have Luke Jackson. In the center midfield, we have Matt Kennedy of the Western Bulldogs, Luke Parker of the North Melbourne Kangaroos, and Max Holmes of the Geelong Cats. On the forward line, we have Aaron Cadman of the GWS Giants, Logan Morris of the Brisbane Lions, and Geelong's Jeremy Cameron. On the full forward line, we have GWS's Jesse Hogan, Port Adelaide's Mitch Georgiades, and Geelong's Shannon Neal round out the starters. On the bench, we have defender Lockie Ash of the GWS Giants. The ruck is Tom DeConing of the Carlton Blues. The midfielder is Caleb Sarong of the Fremantle Dockers. And the Western Bulldogs forward, Sam Darcy, with an impressive return, rounds out my team of the week. As you saw, sir, several cats in this team of the week.
I like that. That means we're doing well. We're in teams of the week, and it's not the same players every week either, I'm assuming, for the Cats. So it's
Yep.
nice. It's nice
Yep.
to have a bit of
Well,
recognition.
yep, I know he was a Brian Myers had 1 week. Tyson Stengel had his week where he kicked four. I know Baz was in there a couple of weeks when he had two. So it's you're getting you're getting production from all of those. But man, this is an incredible week for forwards. As I say, was it Mitch Georgiades had seven, Shannon Neal had five, Hogan had five, Cadman had four, Morris had four, and Jeremy Cameron had four or five. So like my forwards were easy this week because so many bags were kicked. So made it a little bit easier. Considering Sam Darcy kicks three and he's the bench, he's the bench
Yeah.
forward on that. So made it a little bit easier. So and then we'll go to the power rankings, which again is. As I tell everybody, I make sure to make this preference. This is form. This is the last 5 weeks, not the entire season. So there's a few names, especially this first one. At five, the Carlton Blues. At four, the GWS Giants. At three, the Fremantle Dockers. At two, the Geelong Cats. And at one, still, the Collingwood Magpies. So power rankings are always interesting because four and five fluctuate so much. I really need to keep track of it and how many teams bounce in and out of that four and five spots because with a loss in the round that just happened sometimes
Mm.
can throw you in and out so much. So, all right, let's jump to it, sir. I know we are still early in the week. I know the injury list just hit this morning for me. So let's jump to it. Round 15. Let's do some tipping. We start off an interesting one at an Optus Stadium as the Fremantle Dockers host the Essendon Bombers. Who do you like in this one?
I think the Purple Haze gets the job done. I think they keep rolling. So that make it five. It would make it 5 wins in 5 games for them. I just think Essendon too thin due to injury. I think Fremantle will show up at home and get it done.
I'm with you on that one, but this is another one of those games where everybody's going to go, Dockers should win this. Dockers should win this handily. And this is the game where this is the game I look at it and go, Essendon's going to get in this just to annoy us. Just to annoy tipsters. They're
Yeah,
going to be in this game. I still think the Dockers win. I agree with you, but I think Essendon make this a two-goal game or less game, which is going to annoy the crap out of people. So I got Fremantle in this one. A fun one. GMHBA Stadium, a cracking game as your Cats host the Brisbane Lions. I will let you go first, sir. Head or heart? Cats, Lions. Who do you like?
both head and heart. I think, I think Geelong get it done. I think it'll be a cracking game. I just love where this sits in our fixture. You know, we haven't played them. You know, I think we played them in round three. Got a good jump on them early. They came back, ran over the top of us. Quite a few. There's probably 5 players different that I think will be in the lineup this week that weren't there last time out. And yeah, I just love that it comes before our bye. We can really get a sense of where we are against the team that beat us in last year's prelim. So yeah, I think Geelong get it done, but I think it will be a close-ish game. Yeah.
Now I'm with you. I think this should be a fun one. Um, the ruck battle is always interesting because I know McInerney being out, does Darcy Fort get the run or does Omac come back? But Reece Stanley's been playing really, really well. The Cats, I think,
Mm.
too much good form. Really, they're hitting their stride when I think they need to. And Brisbane's lack of kicking straight over the last 2 weeks is a recipe for disaster against the Cats team that can put points up and put points up quickly. Cats for me in this one, good one, but this could get ugly for Brisbane if they can't find the center sticks for sure. I'm going to say that right now. This could get ugly if the Cats kick straight and Brisbane doesn't. So Saturday afternoon footy sees Carlton host the North Melbourne Roos at the MCG. I was so tempted for North to win this game just to see absolute Carlton light their hair on fire type of moments, like talk radio back going nuts. I'm going to tip Carlton in this one. But if like we had like a thing like you had to tip an upset, this would be the one I'd tip because this is ripe. This is absolutely ripe. Carlton coming off a lackluster game against West Coast, coming back to the MCG. So you have the travel north, 2 weeks out of the West Coast, traveling back. But I thought they played two pretty good games of football despite the scores. I think this is ripe for North to potentially get it. Tipping Carlton, but would not shock me if North pull an upset here.
Yeah, I'm going with Carlton as well, but I had similar feelings to you that if we were going to pull an upset this week, it could have been this game. Everyone's expecting Carlton to win. You know, and you just look at little underlying stats like that from last week for North Melbourne, where they had 60 inside 50s. If they can produce, you know, something anywhere near that this week, you just think that they might find the route to goal this week as well. So, but I'm going to tip the Blues, but don't I won't be shocked if I look and the Roos are within a kick late.
Yep. Yep, 100% with you on that one. Fun one. Adelaide Oval, Saturday twilight game. Port Adelaide v Sydney at the Adelaide Oval. Who do you like in this one?
Oh, I like
That's
the
my
Swans,
exact
but I think
reaction.
Port are
Like,
gonna.
not even gonna lie, that was my
I
exact
think.
reaction when I saw this one. I was like, uh.
I like the Swans, but I think Port are going to win, unfortunately. I'm not a big fan of Port Adelaide. I'll be barracking hard for the Swans. I just have this feeling that the Power are on a little bit of a mid-season run. But like I think this is going to be like 74-72 or something. So another one maybe where it's sort of flip a coin. This might be the coin flip of the round, maybe, but yeah, I'm not as familiar with who's in and who's out for these teams. You know, I've sort of got the sense that Sydney may still be missing some players, so that's probably tipped me towards Port in this match.
Well, I'm gonna pull as many people listening to the podcast know as I pulled the no lose situation here. I'm gonna tip Port. But I'm going to be, as you said, I'm barracking hard for Sydney. So if Sydney wins, I at least get my team wins. If Sydney loses, I get the tip right. So it's a no lose situation. I joke with people on that one. With me, I know that there's talk of Goulden and Papley both coming back, but I think Sydney is in reality knowing that finals are slim. Do they risk bringing back both these players in a game on the road when even if you win, you're still not guaranteed a chance to make finals? Do they play conservative and do they hold them back another week and debut them next round? We'll have to see. If they're both back, I'm much more up and about Sydney having a chance to win because if you put in one of the best small forwards in the competition and probably one of the best kicks in the entire competition, both coming back healthy into a game against Port Adelaide that they have been inconsistent as hell. I cannot. There are so many teams this year that annoy me because I don't know what they are. I don't know whether they are good or aren't good. I don't know. And Port Adelaide is one of the biggest offenders when it comes to that because they have games where they look absolutely unstoppable. And then there's games where they
Mm.
look absolutely rubbish. So tipping Port in this one only because I have a feeling Goulden and Papley will be held back another week and debuted at home instead of on the road, which I think doesn't give Sydney the lift that they need. Armadi should be back because he's off suspension, so he should be back. Most likely you're looking at Aaron Francis coming out unless Francis gets moved to the back. We'll have to see. So tipping Port, Sydney, I think are in it, even if they don't get the reinforcements. I think they're in it, but I agree with you. I just think Port's got a little bit too much. Plus, being at home, I think it's the lifter that gets the power over the hill on this one. Marvel Stadium, which is always fun when Collingwood play at Marvel Stadium. Collingwood v St. Kilda. This is a Collingwood home game. Interesting. Pies for me and pies for me big because if the Western Bulldogs can smash you, the pies should smash you. But I will say this. Ross Lyon sometimes can pull out of his. So if he pulls something off here, wouldn't shock me a bit.
Collingwood by 80. Collingwood by 80. I think they are going to light this dumpster on fire. That is my that is my prediction. I think we're going to see some of these games from these teams at the pointy end where they just say, you know what, in rounds like 1 to 8, we might have mucked around with you, but in this back half of the season, there is no quarter given. I think Collingwood are going to roll.
Yep, wouldn't shock me a bit. But again, like I said, Ross Lyon sometimes can pull performances. I mean, I hate to say it with the
He's so
cats
annoying.
with the Cats man with the Cats man here, the fact that he pulled off that win at Marvel Stadium against the Cats earlier in the year. So he finds ways sometimes to pull out performances like this. So I'm never gonna not say it, but I agree with you. I think my common consensus is the Pies and the Pies roll easily on this one. A surprisingly good Sunday afternoon game. GWS, Gold Coast, NG Stadium, Sydney. This could be a great matchup. Who do you like in this one?
I think the Suns are going to get this. This is a purely vibes based pick for me. They've lost a couple of games now. Is it 2 in a row? They went down to the Dockers. They went down to the Cats. Both really bad weather games against Freo, against Freo and Geelong. I've just got this sense that the Suns are going to put something together and beat a Giants team that have been in pretty good form the last month. So yeah, I think it'll be close, but I think the Suns find a way to get a win.
I have flip-flopped in this game so many times because NG Stadium, Sydney, GWS tends to play really good at home, but no Toby Green,
Mm.
super talented team coming in that I think really need a lifter. Having that bye week, I think lets them kind of recovery. My only worry is sometimes teams coming off a bye have this lull the first 20 minutes of the first quarter of the game where they kind of have to get their legs back underneath them. And I
Mm.
worry that the Giants, if they get that 20 minutes and can put up a score, can. I'm with you. I'm going to tip the Suns in this one. But this is a danger game for the Suns because the Giants at home playing well, coming off a high of beating the Giants, beating the Lions. Could you get a red hot Giants team that's looking to stamp their name back into the we're going to make finals? Could they make an example out of the Suns in the first quarter to the point where the Suns are too far behind to catch up? We'll have to see on that one. I'm with you. Tipping Suns, but Giants are heavy in this game. Cannot wait to watch that one. 10:10 in the 10:10 in the early Saturday evening for me. Cannot wait. I'm gonna have my popcorn ready for that one. I think that one is going to be a ripper. Western Bulldogs v Richmond under the lid at Marvel Stadium. I think the dogs fill their boots. They already did against the Saints, and this is an even more inferior team in Richmond. In this one, I think the doggies, I think Bontempelli, watch out because I think after Windhager shut him out last time, I think he has an absolute blinder in this. I like the doggies and the doggies big.
Yes, I'll be at this game going down. My mate Jacko, who's a dog supporter, has a spare ticket, so I'm going along to watch this game. So, for the sake of the 2.5 hour car trip there and back, I really hope that the dogs get the job done because otherwise it could be a very quiet drive home. Yeah, no, I've got the doggies in this one comfortably. I think that they should put the pedal to the metal and to the tune of 10 plus goals easily. Shouldn't even have to get out of second gear to put this Tigers team away by 10 goals,
Yep.
realistically.
Yeah, the Tigers are a pesky side, so I think it's how the first quarter goes. If if the Tigers can stay in it through the first quarter, put a little bit of doubt into the Western Bulldogs, then there's an opportunity. Get to halftime, if you're still within 3 goals, the Tigers are in it. I will tell you this right now. The Tigers are in it if it's under 3 goals at halftime. If it's anything more than 3 goals, the Tigers sometimes crumble when they have a lot of adversity because there's still a lot of youth that are
Sure.
in their super important areas. They've got veterans. I know they've got Loston, they've got Broad, they've got Hopper, they've got Taranto. They do, but even that they can't make up for the fact that you got your youngsters, Layler, Fall, all of the youngsters in this team. They can be discouraged rather easily if you can get a good lead. So the halftime score is going to be huge. If the doggies are up by more than 3 goals, I think it's over. Um, we'll have to see, but it's going to be it's going to be a fun one with that one. Like I said, I think the doggies fill their boots with that one. I think Darcy, Naughton, Bontempelli, Dale. I mean, could Dale get a 50 possession game in this one? Like he fell short in that one a few rounds ago. So that is it. That is all 7 games. Adelaide, Hawthorn, Melbourne, and West Coast get to kick their feet up on the couch this particular round. So only 7 games to discuss on that one. So that is it for everything that I have. But before we end the podcast, let's catch up, sir. How are things going with the Chaps Chat Cats podcast? I know you guys have tons to talk about because the Cats organization as a whole is going really well. I know that we're ramping up for AFLW. I know they're in their preseason. I know that the AFL team is playing well. I haven't had I need to double check how the VFL. I haven't checked the ladder in a couple of days to see how the men's team is going, and the AFLW is the VFLW is not exactly went as well as it probably should have.
No, no, the VFLW side, I don't think they've had a single AFLW listed player play a game this year. So there's been a lot of young women getting a lot of exposure to a level of footy that maybe they haven't played yet. So look, there's been some development there for them, particularly Mika Morrissey is a name if you're into women's footy. Keep an eye out because she has had a pretty good start in what's been a winless start to the season there. But yeah, no, we're watching everything here. Obviously the chaps we merged with the guys from the Hoops show to become the Hoops crew at the start of last year. So this is the second year of our partnership as part of the Hoops crew. And if you're a Geelong fan, we'd love to see you over there. YouTube, Spotify. We are pretty much with there's stuff coming out every day, pretty much from us. I would say it's rare for there not to be. From myself, Sambo, Johnny, Ben, and Paul. There's a lot of coverage. There's news angles. There's game recaps. I do VFL scouting. I watch every game and do player evaluation for our Patreon subscribers. So yeah, it's starting to become a great little community over at the Hoops Crew. So if you're a Cats fan or you know a Cats fan, come on over, get on board with the Hoops Crew. We'd love to see you over there.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun. I've kept track of these guys for a while. It's such a great, knowledgeable group and respectful and understanding. I've loved my chats with Jake here. He's always come on for the podcast. I think it's the third time you've been on the podcast, and it's always a great chat, very
Patrick.
knowledgeable, always fun. I know, and I always reach out to him every year when I get ready to start lining up my co-host for the season. He's one of the ones I have to reach out for because always so much fun to chat with. There's a lot of respect between our two clubs and a lot lot of respect between him and I. I know he's a huge super fan when it comes to it, and he's just like me, another one that loves the women's footy and keeps track of it a lot. To always
Mm.
respect and love that. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for another episode of Donnie's Disposals. Again, if you like what you are listening to when it comes to covering footy, please like and subscribe, and we will be back with more footy coverage very, very soon.